Welcome to the BrainByte podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. So, have you ever been caught out, like, trying to manage something totally beyond you in the middle of a storm, maybe?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That feeling of trying to wrestle control back when it's just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, exactly. I keep thinking about my son Oakley's prom night.
Yeah.
It was pouring rain, absolutely torrential. We had a whole group of hungry kids. And, well, let's just say the dinner reservation plan was maybe a little too optimistic.
The best laid plans.
Right. And my first instinct, full on control mode, gotta fix this. But, you can't argue with the thunderstorm. You can't just magic up tables in a restaurant that's already packed.
No, you really can't.
And that feeling, that realization, that's kind of the core of what we're getting into today. It's this idea called the let them theory. It's basically a mental shift to help you get back your time, your energy, maybe even your sanity.
It's such a powerful concept because it fundamentally changes where you put your attention. Instead of getting tangled up in all the external stuff you can't influence, you start focusing on your own internal world, know, where you actually do have some say. And we're going to be digging into Mel Robbins' work on this, specifically hitting 4 key foundational ideas. First, how to stop burning energy fighting battles you can't win.
Okay.
Second, how you actually start doing this using let them and, crucially, let me. Third, acknowledging, yeah, life is stressful, but framing that in a way that actually gives you power back.
Interesting.
And fourth, understanding the difference between just letting things go and, well, letting things actually drag you down.
So think of this as like a way to feel more in charge, right?
Yeah.
But not by bossing everyone around. It's about being the captain of your own ship.
Exactly. Steering your own responses.
We're aiming for those moments where things just click, those aha insights, and giving you real tools you can actually use. It sounds kind of modern, maybe, but it's amazing how these ideas echo older wisdom psychology.
Oh, absolutely. You see threads of it in ancient philosophy, therapy approaches, stoicism, even spiritual practices. But we're breaking it down simply.
Okay, ready to jump in.
Let's do it. So that first big idea, stop wasting your life on things you can't control.
Right.
The core message here is, look, maybe the problem isn't always you. Maybe it's the sheer amount of energy you're pouring into trying to manage what other people think or say or do.
It's huge when you think about it, isn't it? How much headspace we give to trying to make everyone happy, or trying to stop someone we care about from being disappointed, or trying to get all your coworkers to like you, or even just wishing your family saw things your way.
It's totally like herding cats, like you said. It's exhausting, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And underneath that drive to control, often it's fear. Thinking back to that prom night, wanting those reservations.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about food, was it?
No, not really. Underneath, it was definitely like a fear that the night would be ruined for Oakley, for his friends, that I wouldn't have done my job as a parent, I felt like I should be able to fix it.
Exactly that. That fear, things going wrong, losing control, even just fear of other people having a bad time, it drives so much controlling behavior. You see parents trying to hover over every little thing their kids do.
Guilty?
Or partners trying to subtly, or not so subtly, change each other, friends pushing their viewpoints constantly. But the thing is, and research backs this up, trying harder to control the uncontrollable. It doesn't actually make you feel less anxious. It usually makes it worse.
That makes total sense. You grip tighter, but you just feel more stressed, more tense. It's counterintuitive. But this is where the let them theory offers something really practical, right? This idea of let them.
Precisely. Let them. It's that conscious step, recognizing and just accepting the reality. You cannot control other people. What they think, how they feel, the choices they make, that's their side of the street.
Okay, let's make this concrete. So if I'm stressing because I think my colleague is being negative about my project,
Right.
or I'm anxious because a friend is making choices I think are risky, the first move is just internally saying, let them.
Exactly that. Let them think what they think. Let them make their choices. You acknowledge where your influence stops. You can do great work, but you can't make your colleague feel positive about it.
Okay.
You can be there for your friend, offer support, but you can't live their life for them. Saying let them is like letting go of a rope you were pulling really hard. It takes the pressure off immediately because you stop trying to manipulate things outside your actual control.
It sounds almost too easy, but powerful. Because your instinct is often to lean in, try harder, to influence things.
Think about that seesaw analogy. If you're desperately trying to push the other person's end down, you're both just stuck and struggling. Right?
Yeah.
But if you just step back, focus on your own side, say let them be where they are, suddenly there's a chance for balance. The need to control them lessens because you're not fighting that impossible fight anymore. It's not about being cold or superior. It's just healthy boundaries, creating space.
That seesaw image really works. Okay, so let them releases that external fight. But that's not the whole story, is it? Which brings us neatly to the second idea, getting started and adding in the let me part.
Exactly. Let them is just step one. The real magic, the transformation, happens when you pair with his partner, let me.
Right.
The prom story showed accepting the external stuff you couldn't change. But you mentioned another story about not being invited somewhere. That really highlights the let me.
Oh, yeah, the girls' weekend trip. That one. Yeah, that stung a bit initially. Seeing the photos online, realizing, oh, okay, I wasn't included, definitely triggered that old left out feeling.
Which is totally human, completely normal. But the theory pushes you to pivot. So first you did the let them, okay, they're allowed to plan a trip, go without me, that's their choice.
Right.
But then came the really important bit, the let me phase. What did you start asking yourself?
Yeah, that's when I had to kind of turn the mirror around and ask honestly, like, okay, they went fine, but what am I doing in these friendships? Am I making an effort? Am I reaching out regularly? Or am I just kind of passively waiting to be included, taking some responsibility for my side of things?
And those are the let me questions.
Yeah.
Shifting from focusing on them and what they did to focusing on you, your actions, your needs, your part in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Instead of just feeling hurt about not being invited, you looked at what you could actually do.
Exactly. It flipped it from feeling passive, like something was done to me, to feeling active, like, okay, what do I want here and what can I do about it?
Yeah.
Which led to thoughts like, okay, let me stop just expecting to be included. Let me actually suggest getting together sometime. Let me be more deliberate about checking in. It was about taking back my own power in how I approach those friendships.
And that's the heart of let me. You can't control the invitation, but you 100% control your own actions, how you invest your own time, your own energy. And remember, that time and energy, that's your most valuable stuff. Getting stressed out about things you can't control is like literally flushing those resources away. It stops you from putting them where they can make a difference towards your own goals, your own happiness.
Absolutely. Which flows right into the third point, which, yeah, isn't exactly news, but we need to face it. Shocker, life is stressful.
Right. It's kind of the default setting sometimes. It often feels less like big dramatic events and more like death by a thousand cuts, as Mel Robbins puts it.
Yeah.
Little things constantly poking at you.
Totally.
And what's key here is how we react.
Yeah.
Often that reaction is just automatic, right?
Yeah.
Knee-jerk. And sometimes leads to things we wish we hadn't done, like firing off that angry text.
Oh, been there.
Or snapping at someone at home just because you're frazzled from work.
I had this happen recently, actually. I was on a plane trying to work, and the person a couple of rows back just had this cough, this really persistent, loud, hacking cough. Now, my rational brain was like, okay, poor person. They probably feel awful.
Sure, intellectually, you get it.
But like deep down, every single cough just wounded me tighter. My focus, gone. My mood, tanked. It felt like this thing I couldn't control was just completely taking over my insides.
A perfect example. And that's where the let them theory gives you a tool, a way to hit the reset button on that stress response, like a little mental circuit breaker.
Okay, circuit breaker. I like that. How does let them help flip that switch?
It's a neat little 4-step process.
Okay.
The second you feel that stress kicking in because of something external, the cough, the annoying email, whatever first step, say let them to yourself.
Okay.
That's the initial signal to your brain, like, hey, maybe we don't need to go into full red alert over this. It creates a tiny bit of space between you and the feeling. Second step, just pause. Intentionally stop before reacting.
Don't just fire back.
Exactly. Third, say let me, turn the focus inward. And fourth, take one deep, deliberate breath.
A deep breath. Seems so simple when you're feeling really stressed out.
But the physical effect is real. Taking a slow, deep breath actually stimulates your vagus nerve. That's part of the system that calms you down, the rest and digest system. It tells your brain, okay, crisis averted, stand down. It helps slow your heart rate, lower your blood pressure. So by combining the mental shift, let me focus on my response, with the physical act of breathing, you interrupt that automatic stress spiral. You couldn't stop the cough.
Right.
But you could manage your own reaction to it.
Okay, so let them acknowledge it's happening, but detach a bit. Pause. Stop the knee-jerk reaction. Let me bring the focus back to yourself. And breathe. Activate the calm down response.
Yeah.
That's actually, yeah, that's really useful.
Exactly. You focus on the one thing you can control yourself, your breath, your internal state. And that feeling itself is empowering. Which brings us kind of nicely to the fourth idea for today, which sounds a bit weird at first. Let them stress you out.
Okay, hang on. After everything we just said about not letting things stress you, I'm definitely listening closely now. Seems like a contradiction.
It does sound like one, yeah. It's a subtle but important point. We've talked about using let them to avoid unnecessary stress by letting go of control. This idea tackles the flip side, the danger of passively letting external things dictate your stress levels, basically handing over your power. When you just sort of resign yourself to letting situations or people constantly stress you out in a negative way, you're giving away your agency, your well-being.
Okay, I see. It's not about choosing stress, but about recognizing when you're letting it run the show without pushing back internally.
Exactly. Think about someone who's constantly stressed and angry because they feel their boss, let's call him Steve, is stringing them along about a promotion. They think about it all the time. Their mood goes up and down based on what Steve does or doesn't do.
Yeah, that's super common, feeling stuck like that.
Right. So applying let them in the healthy way we talked about means, okay, Steve can do what he wants. I can't force him, acknowledging his autonomy. But the negative let them stress you out happens when you let that situation just eat away at you. Chronic stress, feeling resentful, maybe your work even suffers.
Okay.
The crucial move then is back to let me. Ask yourself, ultimately, who's in charge of your career? Who's responsible for your professional happiness?
Well, you are.
You are. You can't control Steve, but you absolutely control what you do about your career. Staying miserable in a job that makes you feel undervalued. That's actually a choice, even when it feels like you're trapped. The let me here is about action. Let me update my resume. Let me start networking. Let me see what else is out there. It shifts you from feeling like a victim to being the driver.
That's a huge reframe. Recognizing you're not actually powerless, even when things feel unfair, you always have moves you can make for yourself.
Always. And it means challenging those excuses, those stories we tell ourselves about why we can't change things. You usually have more power, more agency than you think. So this let them stress you out idea is really about deciding, does this really deserve my ongoing stress? How long am I willing to let this external thing control how I feel? Remember that story about the dog poop in the park?
Ah, yes, the park ranger moment.
Right. Initially, it might be, let them, okay, some people are just irresponsible. But when it becomes blatant disregard, maybe it triggers something else. Your let me might become let me say something, or let me report this. You get to decide based on your values.
Yeah.
It's not always passive acceptance.
That makes sense. It's discernment.
Exactly. Same with something like politics.